It's time to get your checking account to zero with free checking from PenFed. That's zero ATM fees, zero balance requirements, and zero time spent waiting for your paycheck to direct deposit because you can receive it up to 2 days early. Open your account with just $25 and see how big zero can be. Apply online today at PenFed.org/free checking. Early direct deposit eligibility may vary between pay periods and timing of payers' funding. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.
PenFed's got great rates for everyone.
What is up, everyone? I'm Jeff London. This is the Mediocre Alaskan Podcast, where we are intolerant of weak-minded attitudes that keep people from pursuing new and exciting things in the areas of fitness, outdoors, and general lifestyle. I know I'm being the total sucker in this episode. We're going to talk about some masculinity things that are going around here. It's particularly an article that a buddy of mine from California shared with me. It's the 7 obsolete manly skills. It's from askmen.com. So the reason why I say that I'm kind of being a sucker on this is because I'm advertising this article. And so if the point of having something or writing something for consumption is to have it read, even if people like it or don't, at least they read it. That's the point. So here I am essentially promoting and marketing, trying to get you to go and read this. Kind of ironic, but I think it opens to begs to a bigger question here. So this is a solo episode. I know that I have some buddies that were in line. We're going to start weighing in on some of this stuff, not in defense of idiot, toxic masculinity, but just giving a different side, because I think a lot of what's going on here is people are commenting on lifestyles that they don't really know. People are, words that fathers may have used for others or to other kids may have been very damaging, but the nuance and the context in which my dad used words like be tough. My dad never really said be a man, but when he said things like be tough and suck it up, it was within the context that I had to be able to be mentally tough enough to handle problems and handle issues rather than just let something crumble, But I never got the impression that Dad said have no emotions. I never got the impression that Dad wanted me to be a stoic person that didn't communicate and had no feelings, no emotions, and never showed weakness. I never got that impression, even though my dad used those words. So I'm not defending whatsoever any sort of the nonsense out there. You look at those little, I don't know the whole story, but the temptation to call those kids who were mocking the Native Americans, there's a lot of words out there that could be used for them. But I also think that in part of our society, what we're doing is we're saying there's a lot of bad things out there. Kids are bad, dudes are bad, masculinity is bad, but we're not giving kids an example of someone to look up to, right? What are the attributes of a man that are good, and who is it that embodies them? Fortunately for women, they can point to specific women. If you were to say girls, who's a woman that you look up to, they would say, an Oprah, Beyonce, Hillary Clinton, those types of people. And they would be able to say not necessarily just for the politics, but because of what they do and the empowering principles that those people have. So, even if you don't like Michelle Obama and former President Barack Obama, you can't argue that the way they carry themselves is stately. Also, I think they believed what they were doing was best for the country. So I think if when girls were to look up to, or if they are to look up to Michelle Obama, I think that could be a positive thing. Again, it's not look at the politics and follow the politics, just the way that person carries themselves. My personal feelings toward Hillary Clinton aside, again, being nominated for and almost the first woman president of the United States, that's a big deal. Again, it's not at all politic related, but someone who ascended to that level could be someone that women look up to. But when it comes to dudes, I don't know. Who would be a dude that, not that you would want to look up to, but is put up there by society as someone that embodies all that we would want? We make a lot of men popular. We throw money at them, but for doing ridiculous things. And that kind of, it's hard to say, dudes, clean up your act, when we just positively reinforce the attributes that are not desired in people. And you look at those kids as an example that were mocking Native Americans. People just know that cameras are around now. And in the same way, you know, when you were starting off teaching, you're told that you know, some kids are going to act out for attention. It's like a little power struggle. So that kid that was standing in the face of that person as he was singing, the Native American, as he was singing, he knew that he was going to get attention for this. And it's that mob psychology that you just get pushed further and further and further. And so we made him, as a consuming audience, just as big as he could have ever wanted. So even if he is getting a ton of backlash, which he should, there should absolutely be discipline. That's just not what we're looking for. That's terrible. That embodies everything that's bad and gives boys a bad name, men a bad name, for sure. But at the same time, there's going to be a question that kids ask or that dudes ask, and that's, is it worth it? Or was it worth it? You know, all the attention, the fame, you know, for nothing. And that's, we make millionaires out of recording artists and out of people who have no talent but the shock value. And because we promote that, because we market that, because we value that and make people millionaires, maybe it is going to be worth it. Sad, it's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it is. So anyway, getting to the article here, it's, where did we go? All right, so this is published on AskMen.com. Obsolete man skills you should ditch. Ian Stober, I think. Talking about rugged skills, and then in the introductions here says skills men aspire to are the man skills, an ability to solve real-world problems involving physical strength and technical know-how, rather than creative and emotional intelligence. Unfortunately, however, as the technology in our lives shifts from analog to digital and from a luxury to a necessity, a lot of the traditional man skills are lessening in importance. What this means is guys still care about being good at things that have no or little practical usage today, while ignoring the growing importance of developing experience and comfort with new types of skill sets. Now, if you want to stay focused on being the coolest guy ever circa the 20th century, knock yourself out. Nobody can make you respect 21st century manliness if you don't want to. But if you are at all interested in being ahead of the curve and exploring how to be the kind of man who's tops in the near future rather than the distant past, then read on to discover which skills are becoming obsolete and what you should be looking to replace them with. Now, I do like the fact that he says there's a contemporary manliness, and a lot of the skills are becoming somewhat obsolete, and we should be growing and evolving. We don't want to be knuckle-dragging Neanderthals. But what would be the purpose of this? By saying the key word there, if you're at all interested in being ahead of the curve. So is this merely an exercise of being more socially acceptable? And if it is all about being socially acceptable and being viewed as a leader or a groundbreaker, who are you doing that for? What's your motivation? Are you being true to yourself, or are you giving in to the whims of society and you're doing what society deems this, rather than staying true to things that just because the society says it's archaic or arcane or it's over, obsolete. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? So here we go. Number one here. Obsolete skills you should get rid of. Number one, hunting. Hunting was a hugely important skill for much of the human history, but in light of the rise of cheap and readily available factory-farmed meat, hunting's relationship to the food we actually eat has disappeared for the overwhelming majority of the population. We'll read that again. In light of the rise of cheap and readily available factory-farmed meat, that seems right there like advocating for hunting. There is also a very large, strong social contingent that says we should get away from the factory farm meat, and the factory and the understanding what goes into our meat is important. People want more of the grass-fed stuff and the free range and the organic. Absolutely. So reason number one to get rid of hunting would be that there's readily available factory farmed meat. That seems to me like it would be reason number one for hunting. He does say, though, that the overwhelming majority of the population, yes, so he is not saying that all people should give up hunting, but the vast majority. And I totally agree that the vast majority of people have no understanding of what it takes and don't live in an area that requires it, but that does not mean that it should be obsolete and people should stop doing it, right? Because in a free country in which I am free to get meat as I choose within the law, shouldn't I be allowed to live the lifestyle that I want because I've chosen to live here and I can choose to do that? Why then would it be obsolete? And why then am I behind the curve? And why then would I be considered the old 20th century man, but I'm not the 21st century manly man? Which, I don't know. Continuing on here, the alternative. So, a good article rather than just mock hunting or say hunting's bad. What's the alternative? So he supplies an alternative here. He said, instead, learn how to cook yourself. Yeah, so hunting is obsolete because we have available factory farmed meat. Instead, learn how to cook for yourself. What if someone who hunts meat, what do you think we do with the meat? So, I am cooking for myself. I am hunting, and then I take the meat that I hunt, and that's what goes in my freezer. So, a disconnector. Meanwhile, this is, again, quoting him. Meanwhile, the average millennial man is probably more adept at ordering dinner online than actually making it, which is too bad. Great. I like that he's pointing out the millennial man and the lack of skills here. So learn how to cook. Absolutely. Again, quoting, cooking your own meals is a lot of fun, generally cheaper than eating out and ordering in, and typically healthier too. That's assuming that while it might seem impossible to as a beginner, it's actually not as complicated as it seems. Join a cooking class, get a meal kit. There you go. And yes, it will impress people. End quote. So, hunting is obsolete because we have factory farmed meat. Instead of hunting, learn how to cook yourself. I'm not going to blame Ian on this one because it just seems like he might not have the understanding of the way things actually work. And I think he might actually appreciate if he were to watch some of the Meat Eater episodes in which they are cooking, and the Meat Eater cookbook. So I can't blame him. I think this might have been a little bit hole in the research. But yeah, I think for a lot of people who see hunting from an urban setting, see it as the trophy hunters that are just gravy trained on into some place, and they sit in a stand and they are hooting and hollering over the killing a deer that just walked right in front of them. I think that's what hunting is for a lot of people, and the information about a rural hunting for food is not out there, and so it's hard to blame people for not knowing that there are people who still exist and subsist. So there that is.
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
His second one is fighting. Yeah, I think fighting is ridiculous. Not only fighting, but also being that person who, because again, there's that knowing that people are around with video cameras at like a protest, who are just egging like police officers on, those irritants, those instigators. Man, I cannot stand those people at all, who then put themselves in a situation, dare someone to punch them, and then when they are punched, just, how dare you, I was being peaceful and you got punched. You were doing things to incite action, so you are not an innocent party in this. Should that person have punched you? No, but you can't just push someone's buttons or do something and expect that there's not going to be a consequence. You have to know there could be a consequence here, so you should not be surprised when someone acts out, even if it is wrong. You're putting all of the control over what happens next to someone else. And so just because you don't throw the punch doesn't mean that you aren't instigating things. So fighting, I agree with that. Repairing your car, number 3 here. Obsolete things that men should ditch, repairing your car. Quote, in the popular imagination, the greasy car mechanic wiping his sweaty brows, he peers into your car hood is always a cool guy. That is just a total stereotype. This guy says that the new cool thing, rather than be the grease monkey type, is to learn how to code. Learn how to code. So don't work on your car. Learn how to code. Quote, the 20th century mythos of the car and the vehicle that gave you freedom to cross great distances, to discover new things, to leave your past behind is perhaps now more accurately applied to the internet. There's a pretty good chance you spend more time online these days than driving, ideally not at the same time though, but the average person probably has little idea how any of the internet actually functions, let alone how to build a website or make an app. This is kind of scary. Getting rid of the repairing your car and learn instead how to code. I totally understand that learning how to code is a very practical and useful thing. But I'm not sure that over-digitizing is the answer to a lot of the problems that we have. I think as a hobby, if you want to code, build apps, and it's a very great thing to do. But I don't know, at the expense of being practical. When it comes to car ownership, being able to do simple things. Like if I don't want to change my own brakes and I want to pay someone to do it, and I can gauge the amount of time that it would cost me to do this and then instead have someone else do it, I would absolutely pay someone else to do that stuff. Because there are certain things that I don't know how to do. There's a lot. The vast majority of things when it comes to working on a car, I don't know how to do. I can do simple things, but I take it to a professional. They know how to do it because I don't have to worry about, if my truck was new, invalidating warranties because I try to work on it myself and I don't know what I'm doing. But there are a lot of things that I can do myself, that's going to save me a lot of money. So rather than just outsource all of that stuff, change the lower unit in a boat, maintenance on the outboard motor, those sort of things, those are practical things that I think you should know. I think those would be things that you should continue to know, that we should bring from the old days of the 20th century, those practical skills. Instead, learn how to code. Interesting there. Number 4, fixing things at home goes right along there with number 3. Like, why would you not? So get rid. Whoa. Okay, obsolete man skills you should ditch. Number 4 is fixing things at home. Instead, he says, learn how to decorate. I think a lot of the decorating stuff requires. Yeah, I don't know. Number 5, being a leader. That's an obsolete man skill. Quote, for much of human history, societies meant women were expected to stay home and raise children, and men were expected to run everything else, meaning that there's a good chance your mom wasn't a CEO, your grandmother almost certainly wasn't. But in today's world, the notion that a man will or must be a leader is increasingly vanishing. What this means is that guys who were brought up expecting to be in control and now are now having to accept that gasp at their boss as a woman what to do. Okay, now here's where there's nuance to this conversation here. I think if you are a man and you want to be a leader, you should absolutely be a leader. That does not mean that they are expecting control. There's a difference between me as a man and what I believe I should be and what I deem as being a man is, and it is masculine for me to take responsibility for actions and be a leader. That does not mean it's at the expense of women. It does not mean, in my interpretation, in my nuanced decision, in my definition, does not mean that I'm expecting control over women. That means that I should be in the position to be a leader. Should I have that opportunity, and should it be needed? I think there's a lot of dudes who read it the same way. But I'm sure there are absolutely dudes who think, how dare a woman think they are going to be my boss? I think there are dudes out there absolutely who believe that, which is probably who this writer as well as many other people are speaking about. And so in that case, I would agree. We should probably get rid of men who maybe expect leadership over women. Maybe that'd be the best way to articulate this specific thing, rather than dudes should not expect to be leaders. I think that's ridiculous. Dudes need to rise to the occasion, and women can rise to the occasion. This is great. It only makes us better. Women leaders, men leaders, respecting each other. Great. Number 6, being a disciplinarian. Okay. Number 7, holding your emotions in. Yeah. Okay. So there it is. Obsolete man skills that you should ditch, dudes out there. Number 1 is hunting. Number 2 is fighting. Number 3, repairing your car. Number 4, fixing things at home. Number 5, being a leader. Number 6, being a disciplinarian. And number 7, holding your emotions in. Again, there's so many articles that are like this. You know, I just happened to be the one that got shared last night and was kind of marinating on it. There's a lot of stuff out there that's similar to this, but I think there's a part of the conversation that's being left out or ignored, or people just don't know about it. People just don't. They're not really sure about how other things work, especially with the hunting thing. You know, I talk a lot about hunting in the outdoors, and Steve Rinella and those guys and Remy Warren have been outspoken about the value of hunting and just how it really practically works when it's not those packaged shows that are almost intolerable, and it's really tough to watch. But yeah, if that's someone's the only way they see hunting, then I can absolutely see how people could be against hunting. And people aren't going to go in and they're not going to do a ton of research and look into why and figure out anything else or challenge their views on hunting. They're just going to see it for what it is and chastise it, ridicule it, or say that it's obsolete. But there's just so much nuance in the conversation. And as I was saying at the beginning, I'm not really sure that, what's the example here? If you're saying boys grew up to be men and men be a different type of boy, what are we? If you do all these things, or you do most of these things, if you hunt and if you repair your car and if you fix things at home, if you want to be a leader, if you are a leader and you're a disciplinarian, and maybe you don't cry all the time, like does that someone reads this, do they think that they are obsolete, that the 21st century does not want them, that they're a man who has to grow and has to change? Well, I Some of the happiest people that I know are people who are builders and carpenters, and they like making beautiful things. My grandpa used to make oak furniture. I have buddies that build cabins. I have buddies that build decks, and they love building. They're outside and they're creating things and they're making other people happy. I just think we lose a lot of things when we lose that. Again, and I'm not saying that and I get the point that there are aspects of traditional masculinity that are bad, for sure. A lot of that was perpetuated by Hollywood, which is ironic then, because Hollywood is at once the perpetuator of stereotypes and then also the moral authority. We're just looking for movie stars in Hollywood to weigh in on these social issues about masculinity and violence and guns, right? And then most of these stars who are millionaires because of that and preying on that stereotype. So you say that it's bad, but come see my movie. Crazy. So I certainly don't feel like a victim, and I'm not defending masculinity. I am advocating for the discussions relating to nuance when it comes to masculinity and how people individually define it, how people individually create the type of man that they want to be, the type of man they want to be around, and trying to get culture to accept or change in some regards is absolutely good and positive. But people should do it based on how they feel and using their own freedoms and their lifestyle and where they live, rather than just see what society is doing and so try to be ahead of the curve. Like I do. What's just so society thinks that I'm a more put together man? If we have increasing levels of depression and left-outedness and sadness, what's my purpose? What am I doing? Am I trying to look good to society, or am I trying to be the best version of myself? And if myself likes to go hike mountains and I feel most alive when I do things that are deemed obsolete by the 21st century man, you know what? Then that's what I'm going to do. If I feel better about this, then there you go. I will absolutely, there's some things that I've been working on. But like I said, there are a lot of things that people say are the worst thing you can tell the kids that my dad told me, but based on the information that I knew and how Dad interpreted those words, crazy, interesting conversation. I know there's a lot of nuance, and I'm sure I'm leaving stuff out, which would mean that we could have a great conversation about the intent if I were to talk to Ian. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's well written. I think we could just have a discussion about some of the things, and he could present his case. I could present my case. We could have a discussion, just have a talk about it. We can disagree, absolutely, but we're having a discussion, and I think that's awesome. I enjoy having discussions with people about things and agreeing on things and disagreeing on things. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I don't feel this article was attacking men at all. I don't think it really encapsulates anything but this guy's opinion, and I think a lot of people will agree with it. I agree with some of it, but have a discussion about it. And there it is. Here we go. It's Sunday. Raining outside. You can head outside and get in the woods. So we'll call that episode 75. Make sure you check out the mediocrealaskan.com for content, things like that. Again, ideas, if you have comments about anything, leave comments, direct messages, things like that on my Instagram at Alaska Lund or the Mediocre Alaskan. And make sure you check out Caffeine and Kilos. Got some articles coming out for them every other week. I got one coming out from there in the Judo Empire every other week. And that'll do it. We'll talk to you next time.